you know, you've been famous since the 80s. You've been rich since the 90s. So like you don't even know basically what it's like to be Black in America for real. But he had written it, and he's like going on a press run talking about it. And someone had posed the question to him about whether or not he would talk about it with Donald Trump, or maybe Donald Trump asked him to have a conversation, and he went. I don't remember like exactly the circumstances, but his thing was,
I think it was, I just pulled it up. Ice Cube takes some heat for working with the Trump administration. I think that's what it was, and I was
yes,
like,
yes.
"What?"
So he didn't endorse him, but he was
Right.
basically like, no matter who the president is, we're going to have to work with that president to get these things done. And Donald Trump, being the opportunist that he is, um, asked Ice Cube to meet, which coincidentally, um, the Biden administration did not do. And so Ice Cube was basically like, whoever is the president, that's who we're gonna have to deal with. Like, I don't think I'd be so sad. Because like
Yeah.
cute, I mean, like, Snoop is, America's uncle or whatever. However,
Mhm.
he's got his thing going with Martha Stewart and all of that. But like, I've never been the hugest Snoop Dogg fan, if I'm being honest. Like, he has songs that I like, and certainly I was in the club in the 90s when the Chronic hit. Like, I was doing the G thing dance at house parties just like everybody else. I
Mhm.
definitely could probably quote every lyric to Doggy Style and that whole album and all of that. But also, he just doesn't have the most stellar record when it comes to how he treats women, how he speaks about women. Like, he's just kind of gross anyway. So I'm honestly not shocked. But did you see where Elon Musk shared the video where it was Snoop talking about like any Black person that performs for Trump? This is for the 2020 inauguration. Any Black person that goes and performs for Trump is basically, these aren't his words, these are my words, but basically a crispity, crackety, crunchity. Is
Mhm.
basically what he said.
I
And
didn't
so
see that Elon shared it, but
he
I
shared it.
know that, Snoop made that video.
Yes. Elon shared it and said and quoted like something like the vibe switch up is real or something like that. But Snoop deserves that. You deserve that.
Yeah. Ugh.
Gross. It's going to be such a gross, like, culturally appropriated, like, the amount of Blackness that's going to be appropriated to, like, celebrate whiteness over the next 4 years is going to be
And,
pretty
like,
epic.
with Black History Month coming up, I just
Girl. Girl. Ugh. Okay, so we are back. I'm sorry. And it's not going to get, yeah, our next story we have to talk about. So we're on our true crime segment. And so when you put her name on there, I knew that her name had to be on this segment. Like, I knew that. I could not bring myself to type her name on it. This story is just sickening.
yeah.
Um, so, but since you put her name on there, can you just catch us up on who is Naziah Harris? What's going on with that case?
Yeah. She was thir 13-year-old, little girl who disappeared last year, and I wanna say, like, people just thought she ran away? Hold on, here it is. Um, and so police were, doing the investigation, and they found out that her little cousin's father, um, was assaulting her.
Yeah.
And she I don't think a body has been found. Um and he's like a registered like sex offender, and quite honestly, I'm should have been locked up. Like, I don't understand how he was even out, let
Yeah.
alone around be able around children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. The way that every single person in this child's vicinity failed her
failed.
is is like beyond disgusting. So Jarvis Butts is so she was being raised by her aunt. Apparently her mom's a drug addict, so she's being raised by her aunt. Jarvis Butts served 10 years in prison for essaying his own 4-year-old child and giving her an STD. So he served 10 years in prison for that. Then her aunt, Shannon, when he got out of prison, that's when they began dating. And at that point, Naziah was 2 years old. So this man had been in Naziah's life since she was two. There's, rumors on the internet that the grandmother was also sleeping with Jarvis. Um, I think the thing that infuriates me more than, or at least as much as, because I definitely want to fight her aunt and her grandmother for sure, based on all of the things that I said. Like, I want to fight them. But I think the
Yeah.
thing that frustrates me even more, or as much as the two of them, is the number of people on the internet that keep referring to Naziah as fast or grown, as if she wasn't a child. This man is 42 years old. He's 42 years old. She's not fast. It's just wild to me, like the mental gymnastics to go, like, you have all the smoke for a literal child, but none of the smoke for a literal PDF file. Like, she's fast. What is he? The person that groomed her. What is he?
Right. So with like the TikTok ban and everything, I was looking up like, oh, what are some things that like should be banned but didn't get banned? And child marriage
Mm,
is legal in 38 states.
come on.
Um with some laws or rules saying that young girls as young as 12 with parental consent can get married.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is in a lot of these states that have these quote unquote child laws, the girls can get married younger, like some 15, whereas like the boy has to be 17. And I found that really interesting. And so of course it was saying how, depends on the circumstances and, emotional maturity and all this other stuff. And I was like, your brain doesn't develop till you're 25. So how are you
Right.
emotionally ready and matured to get married? And
Yeah.
I feel that way at 18, let
Yeah.
alone like younger than 18.
12. Yeah.
And so it just makes me like, uh, you know, it just makes me wonder or think in these really small, like rural towns, how many kids are being born just so like they can go into like they're being a payoff for the family essentially.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't did you ever watch 19 Kids and Counting?
No.
So I did.
Uh-huh.
And the oldest son, the pervert, his wife, so like she literally grew up really poor, and no shame, like, you can't help where you grow up, but like literally in like a mobile trailer park, like
Mm.
in a
Hook it onto the back
tiny,
of your truck. Yeah.
yeah, like and
Yeah.
tiny. And so I don't think a lot of people realize at that time, now the Duggars weren't, I don't think they were quote unquote like millionaires, but Jim Bob was in politics. And I mean, however way you want to look at them, clearly they were doing something right in the financial way to be able to have all these kids. And they had like a big property and stuff. So like they were doing something right in the fight for themselves.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so some people have speculated with his Anna and Josh, like, was she kind of like, here you go, can you give us money? Yeah,
So she was.
possibly.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely convinced that there are pockets of, I mean, just like, and I feel like we've talked about before, just to kind of touch on the Diddy Jay-Z thing again. Because there's definitely, well, allegedly, um, there's some trafficking allegations against Diddy. And there is rumors that Jay-Z and Beyonce basically own like surrogate farms overseas. I think maybe in India. I can't swear to it.
Okay.
Where they've just got a bunch of women who are surrogates for people that want to have babies. Allegedly, that became a thing after she had Blue, where, allegedly she used a surrogate for Blue.
Mm,
And they just wanted like a private place where women of means could go and have a surrogate without having to be concerned with people finding out, without the surrogate like changing their mind and deciding, whatever. But I just thought when I heard that, and I don't know, it's allegedly,
mm-hmm.
um, that that's a perfect opportunity to also traffic in human beings, because who's keeping track of all of these
Right.
babies and where they're going?
Well, and did you ever hear the conspiracy that like Oprah schools over in Africa
Mhm,
were also like trafficking?
mhm.
And again, what do all of these people have in common? They're billionaires. So like just putting it out there.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I did want to make the point with Naziah that, um, especially Black people, like I'm talking specifically to the Black community with this, that referring to little Black girls as fast, it basically you're adultifying a child and you're blaming them for what happens to them instead of the adults that are responsible for keeping them safe. So if a little girl is being fast, maybe we have a conversation with her and find out where that behavior is coming from, because that's not a normal and natural behavior for any child, to be sending the type of text messages that she was sending, to this grown adult man. Um, and I don't know. It just, for me, I just feel like it always comes back to being our fault. They call us fast when we're little girls so that they don't have to believe that we're victims when we become adults. And so that just really, I think that's what had me so triggered. I don't know. Naziah's story like really triggered me. I was very triggered.
That last part that you just said, I just saw a Twitter thread, I think, and it was talking about how come there's no coming of age black girl movies.
Mm.
And let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, why don't black girls have a summer coming of age movie? And um they were continuing, every movie y'all are suggesting are either not summer movies, not a coming of age movie, not even black girl led, or all three, and that's the issue. Some of the movies are hardship movies for young black girls, and that's definitely not what I'm talking about. And she posted like the last song, which had Miley Cyrus, the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Lizzie McGuire. Um, and then someone was like, because there's no coming of age for us, we're immediately of age when we're born. And you know what? Someone else put, you know what makes sense? Because that makes sense. Because why isn't there a black girl version of 16 Candles, Clueless, Mean Girls? And someone said, because the movie industry doesn't give a fuck about black people. And it just kind of like goes with your point, like, because unfortunately society doesn't see black children, especially women, as like children. They're adults
Mhm. And so we're over sexualized and we're adultified and
and underprotected.
underprotected.
And I
Yeah.
want to say the statistic is 50% of black women will be sexually assaulted before they're 18.
I remember, and we've talked about this before as well, that my husband, Earl, we've been married a long time. We've been married 22 years. And early in our relationship, we just weren't having these types of conversations. Um, it was like when we met, it was the 90s. Like we were partying and having fun and like not thinking about like what it means to be an adult, and like even though we were adults, right? But we just weren't thinking about adult things. Our frontal lobe was not fully developed. So it wasn't until after that we were married that we started having conversations that started to make me feel very uncomfortable. I've shared with you before that like he had some opinions about gay people that at one point I was very seriously thinking that I'm going to have to divorce this man because I cannot be married to somebody who thinks this way about other human beings. That was a real thought. like,
Mm-hmm.
he's come a long way. He has grown significantly, and understands now that like people are people and it's not your business, and like just treat people with respect, yada yada. Um, why did I? I hate when I lose my train of thought. It had to do with women. Oh, so when we started having the conversations, I don't remember exactly what was going on, but again, we're like, maybe it was right around, maybe it was when Trump was running for office and like just all of the disgusting things that Trump was saying. I know one of the big conversations we had was when Trump was talking about how he was basically bragging about assaulting women when he was on that bus and he was talking about, when you're a star, they let you do it. You just grab them by and then they were saying it was just locker room talk. And my husband was like, no man has ever talked like that in a locker room around me. Like that is going too far. Like are men gross in the locker room? Yes. But like, I know what rape is when I hear it, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, of course, the longer Trump was in the race, the more these conversations are being had. And he just looked at me one day and was like, I had no idea what women go through just like trying to exist. You know what I'm saying? Um, And so even earlier today, he just said something about men being gross. Like at this point, he's just kind of disgusted with men in general, and embarrassed about their behavior. But I'll just never forget when he's just like, I just didn't know. I just didn't know that it was this bad. Like I knew
Mhm.
men were gross, but I didn't know it was this bad.
Well, did you see or hear about that Telegram leak?
Mm-mm.
And it was 70,000 men were found in a group chat discussing how to grape and sexually assault women and get away with it. And it was over somewhere over in Europe. Um and so I posted on my social media accounts one night. I posted not all men, but somehow it's always a man. And when I tell you my comments got flooded with men getting all upset and saying how, I was stereotyping all men and like women do things too and blah blah blah. And listen, not once did I ever say that like women also can't be sexual predators, because they absolutely can.
And are
And
often.
are. But you
Hmm.
know what's also interesting though, when it's when it's a older woman and a younger man, even grown men still like encourage that. I mean, we saw it with the Mary Kay Letourneau case. Like I was a child during all of that. But as I grow older, I listen to like radio hosts talking about that case, and I believe it was Howard Stern who was like, "What 13-year-old boy wouldn't want to sleep with his hot teacher?" So,
Yeah,
like, again,
yeah,
not to
yeah,
say that, like, a woman predator is better, because they're not, but,
yeah.
like, even in that situation, male is still dominating and encouraging that. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well,
you
and like I
you built
explained
this
again to my
debate.
husband, yeah. And like I was explaining to him, because we still have this debate. This is one that I'm still working on him with, because, that's my thing is, y- you're right. Yes. What 13-year-old boy doesn't want to have sex with his hot teacher, right? Okay. But why do you think that there aren't 13-year-old girls that want to have sex with their hot male teacher? There are. None of that makes it okay. It is not okay for adults to have sex with children,
Right, right,
male or
exactly.
female.
Doesn't matter who.
Yeah,
Like,
it's inappropriate, Yeah,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
And yeah, I just really think that a lot of people, like, we just need to revisit a lot of things, I think.
yeah,
Cuz yeah, if you're not, you know, and yeah, like you said, I feel like a lot of women or like, non-binary people that are smart, like I feel like a lot of us probably we our brain develops around 25 years old. A lot of people, yeah, like you said earlier, might take a little more time.
might take a little time.
Yeah.
Some people were
So
still waiting.
some were still waiting. Still waiting.
Yeah,
And it's just like, so when it comes to marriage and like gun policies and all of this other stuff, why aren't we putting that into factor with certain situations?
yeah,
Like, I just,
yeah. I would love to, and I wrote an article about it. It's probably been 15, 17 years ago, but going back to like what the conversation that we were having when Cheryl was on is about like just returning to how we used to do things. And I know historically in Africa, a rite of passage was a thing, and you could not be an adult without rites of passages. And we don't have those anymore. It's just like, oh, well, you turn 13 and you're a teenager, and you turn 16 and you can drive a car, and you turn 18 and you can vote, and then you turn 21 and you can drink. But there's no like series of events that happen to make sure that you're mature enough to handle the responsibility of these new privileges that you're acquiring. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I sometimes get a lot of flack for this, and hopefully it'll make sense. Um, I've I've worked with a lot of religious women who are pro-life, but have had to like go through IVF to get a baby. And I may sound selfish. I'll take that. But I found it so interesting, and there was one in particular. She made this video to announce her pregnancy. And again, I don't want to shame any mother who had to get, or any parent who had to get bring their child in through IVF. I'm just finding this the irony in this. So her and her husband could not conceive naturally, and so they had to do IVF treatments. And they do this cute little announcement video, and at the end she puts made with a whole lot of love and just a little bit of science. And I was just, it kind of irked me because I was like,
Seemed
it's
like a
all
whole lot of
science.
science, babe.
It was all science, babes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like made with a lot of love, prayers, and just a little bit of science. It's like, no, no, no. That was all science. And if you think that like someone should be forced to carry a child because it's quote unquote God's will, maybe you not being able to conceive naturally was God's way of telling you that you shouldn't conceive. I
Ooh, I can see the hate mail in the
I
comments.
mean, you can comfort me. You're not going to change my mind, but
Facts.
like I just find it funny that that's not talked about when it comes to like, abortions and stuff. And again, I also worked with another woman who had to conceive her child through IVF, and I low key thought this was kind of creepy. Again, I'm not trying to shame anyone, just me personally. I'm like, why did we have to do that? So when the baby was born, they did a photo shoot, and surrounding the baby that formed a heart were all the needles that it took to make the baby. And you can imagine, right? Like how many needles that is. And
Very
IVF is,
intentional creepiness. Like pure
and
intentional.
yeah, and also like IVF is expensive.
Mm.
And I just kept thinking like, wow, you spent all this money. Who knows like if you were, I hear that's it can be a painful journey for women, like to go through all that when you could have adopted a
One of these
child.
babies that you're
Yeah.
forcing women to have.
And I also want to note this. I feel like too, in a lot of these IVF situations, the person, whether whoever has the uterus and is carrying the baby, I feel like a lot of times it's always the man who was like, no, it biologically has to be mine. I feel like not, and not to say that like whoever's carrying the child also doesn't want to experience pregnancy. I'm not saying that, but I feel like in a lot of these situations, it's the man saying like, well, I want to pass on my name. I want my genes, blah blah blah. And again, like, who has to go through it though? The person with the uterus. And so yeah, before I go on a little rant.
No, 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 no. Listen, I love your rants because girl be preaching, okay? Like, damn. I remember people next. Hey guys, it's me, Peppermint Petty, one half of the dynamic duo that is Black Behind the Chair. First of all, we want to thank you for spending your Sunday evenings with us. Every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can join us for salon things, politics, current events, news, jokey jokes, and more. We just love this little community that we're building of like-minded people, and we just want to say thanks so much for being here with us. We're trying to hit a goal of 500 subscribers by the spring. So if you could do us a quick favor and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, engaging with our comment by liking, sharing, and commenting allows the algorithm to do what it does. Lastly, if you have something to say to us, anything at all, a question about something in the beauty industry, a topic you'd like us to cover, leave us a voice message at 470-713-5905. You can do that anonymously or leave your social media if you'd like a shout out. And now back to Black Behind the Chair. I wanted to make sure to touch on the DOJ report that came out on the Tulsa Massacre of 1921. And confirmed what we all already knew after 103 years, that that was actually a state-sanctioned terrorist attack on a thriving Black community. We already knew that. In fact, there are survivors to this day that are still trying to get their reparations. For those who don't know, the Tulsa Massacre started when a 17-year-old white girl accused a Black teenager of assault. And I just want to be clear, number one, that didn't only happen in Tulsa. It happened in places like Rosewood, Florida. That movie, I remember watching Rosewood. Have you ever seen that?
I feel like I've heard of it. I don't know if I've seen it.
I was so angry when I called into work the next day, which I never do, but I did not go to work the next day. I was so angry. But places like Rosewood, Florida, Colfax, Louisiana, Wilmington, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Elaine, Arkansas. There's a long history of white terrorism perpetuated with impunity on Black communities. Race massacres were common and are blatantly and purposely ignored in history books, and is the reason why they're trying to, even to this day, change the wording in history books and change what our history books actually say. But I saw a video of Tom Hanks. It was Tom Hanks talking about how he had never even heard of the Tulsa race massacre, and like trying to understand how he had never heard of it when he had heard of like all of these other um, battles in American history, but like that never came up. And so I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that report came out. It came out under it is the Emmett Till. I'm going to tell you. Hang on. It's the Emmett. So it was brought under George Bush. It's the Emmett Till Civil Rights. Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Act. And so basically, any civil rights crime that happened prior to I want to say it was like 1970. I want to say it was 1979
Mhm.
and before. um, that they you can bring the case, and the FBI will investigate it and where possible hold people accountable. And so I actually, and I don't know if we've talked about this on the show before or not, but my family actually has land in Mississippi where we have the deed to the land, but our family was chased off of it. My it was my grandfather's grandfather was lynched. And my grandfather came home from school and found him, because they wanted the land that my family was on. And when they refused to sell, then he was lynched. And, my grandfather's grandmother then took her children and grandchildren and ran. Um, and so I am definitely looking into bringing that case, under the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Act, and see if we can get that investigated. But like, I think what I don't remember how it goes. I think it's a Bible quote where it's like words without deeds is moot or something to that effect. And so that's what I feel like you're telling us what we already know, that it's state sanctioned violence, but like
Yeah,
the survivors have been trying to get reparations for like decades, and
right.
they keep getting blown off. But like we
Yeah.
know for a fact what it was. You just want
Yeah.
to go ahead.
Well, it just I I hate all of that, and I hope that your family can, like, get a hold get the land back in the family for sure. It just worries me that the FBI is gonna handle it because it's like, is this the same FBI that killed Martin Luther King?
That is scary. That is scary, and I have not contacted anyone for that, honestly, for that very reason.
Yeah,
Whenever I
like
talk with my family about it, I'm like, we can't go by ourselves. Like, I would like to go there and like search through records and talk to people, and I'm like, but we would have to go like deep with
mhm.
people, and
Yeah.
be armed and have cameras and
Yeah, because who's to say, like, they're not just gonna snatch it and be like, "Well, we have it."
yeah.
And, like, if you don't have the resources to fight it, then, like, you lose it, and I just
Mhm.
again, I just hate this game of like, "Oh, well, even though, again, we're the oppressors and we put this system in place, and we've also done things like, they didn't just kill Martin Luther King, they've killed a lot of, civil rights leaders and other people, and then to be like, "Okay, so you have to come ask us for help." And
Yeah,
it's like, you at the
yeah,
time, you wouldn't even admit that you were the problem.
yeah,
And now I have to be like, I have to trust you?
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah. But in other news, what about the nurse in Virginia, Erin Stratman, who was breaking the bones of babies in the NICU?
yeah.
So she, so a few years before, babies had been popping up in the NICU with broken bones. They did an investigation. They put her on paid leave for a year.
Hmm,
She was off work for
mm.
a year on paid leave. They bring her back, and babies start popping up with broken bones in the NICU again. So she's been charged with felony child neglect and felony malicious wounding. Now, first of all of the babies were Black. There's no mention of a hate crime. One of the babies died. There's no mention of murder. Um, and like she's been arrested, but what about the hospital administration who like brought her back and like obviously because if multiple babies' bones are being broken, you're complicit. How are NICU babies' bones just mysteriously getting broken and like what? What?
I mean, that's so horrible. Like, and unfortunately, though, like that doesn't shock me because it's the system. And as you were saying that, I was like, you know what? Happens with police. You know, when police shoot and kill people, they just transfer them to another department.
And give
Um,
them a promotion and a raise.
yeah.
They
Same
run
with
stories.
priest. The church doesn't get rid of priests. They just send them to another congregation. And it's like, yeah, at what point, like, are all of you complicit here? And like, to get even more personal, like, here in Missouri with Mike Brown, Darren Wilson came from a disbanded police department in Jennings that was shut down due to the racial tension between the Black community and the white police officers. And they just put put all those officers in other probably predominantly Black areas. And yeah, then we had Mike Brown. And it's
And
like, are we shocked?
yeah, no, we're not. We're definitely not shocked. Hopefully, I like to think that our listeners are smarter than the average bear and that they're connecting dots. And so maybe we won't continue to repeat history over and over. But it's, as you were saying older about the system, because he was transferred from Jennings. He comes to Ferguson, shoots Mike Brown, which happens to be the first murder in Ferguson that year on August 9th. And if I'm not mistaken, he's just now that he wasn't even charged. And now he's living somewhere undisclosed and probably still a police officer if we're being 100% about it.
Last I heard he was not a police officer. I don't know where he is. I heard he was like an insurance person.
Ah, okay. Well, the girl can dream.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll just terrorize Black people from that angle, of course, but um, but to go back to the whole system, because then it was Bob McCullough who was tampering with witnesses and refusing to bring it before a grand jury and refusing to give the grand jury the evidence. And so when we say systemic, that's what we're talking about.
Whose son later caused a situation at a school during a trunk or treat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times, good times.
Who?
Oh, what else do you have? Do we touch on everything on here? Let me
I think
see.
so.
Um. Oh.
But I will say, going
Do, do,
back
do, do,
to
do.
the little girl earlier, I don't know if you saw or looked at the
Um.
one case, and I'll make it quick because it kind of ties in with Relisha Rudd. back in 2014. She was an 8-year-old black girl who went missing from a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C., and her disappearance received limited media attention compared to, famous white girls that go missing. Um, and since authorities failed to act quickly, her suspect abductor, Khalil Thompson, I believe that was his name, he um disappeared with her, and then he later committed suicide, and we don't know what happened to her. And yeah, it's the whole system, and like I don't know what more can be done.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we are
The whole
just
system has to go.
that
And
part.
like I'll be the one to say it. It's not going to go that way just by voting. And I want to bring up too, it's so interesting when, Luigi shot and killed the CEO, how much like social media like blew him up, But then someone brought up a good point. Did we really like celebrate him, or did we just sexualize him?
Well, and also the other thing, so that, but also, had that been Daquan instead of Luigi, that story would have been told differently too, right? Like Luigi is a hero, Tyrone is a
We
thug.
we wouldn't have. Well, to be quite honest, I don't think we would have even heard about it. I
Mm,
think they would have tried to shut that down real quick.
buried it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of think like Luigi was so like famous because he is lighter skin. Because you're absolutely right. What would it have looked like if it were Daquan that
Mhm.
shot and killed? To be quite honest, I don't think they even would have reported that the bullets were engraved. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I think they would have
mhm.
just tried to
Made it
make
look
it
like
seem.
gun
Mhm.
violence, just
Yep.
random gun violence. He's just a
Yep.
thug.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Um, totally different story. But same city. I want to go back to because I don't think I ever finished with Wendy Williams. I started talking about Wendy Williams, but then I think we went on break. And I really wanted to touch on that and not like, Wendy Williams is Wendy and she's problematic and like however you feel about her. She is an icon in Black radio who is currently under a conservatorship, and she spoke out on several large media platforms last week and used words like, what did she say? She used words like isolated, controlled, prison. She said she's in a fucked up situation. um and like I said, the story piqued my interest because she's an icon, however you feel about her. Um, but it also made me think like, first of all, do broke people get conservatorships? Because we saw what they did to Britney Spears, which I mean, Britney Spears was basically. I still am not convinced that Britney's okay. Like, there's rumors
Mhm.
that she's out of her conservatorship, but like that her brother is still like controlling her somehow. And there was, whatever. But when you think about it, so there's been Britney Spears. At one point, there was talk about Justin Bieber going under a conservatorship, Kanye, Mariah Carey, and then when you look at like the events leading up to her conservatorship, so Wendy was going through her divorce with her husband because her husband got his side chick pregnant. Right around that same time, she fired her financial advisor at Wells Fargo. The financial advisor, along with her husband, got together and basically the Wells Fargo decided that Wendy was like losing her mind because she fired her financial advisor. So now Wells Fargo basically shut down her access to her accounts before the conservatorship was even a thing. So I go on TikTok and just type in Wells Fargo in TikTok, and you'll see
Mm,
like hundreds of stories of regular people who are not Wendy Williams and don't have Wendy Williams money, of
mhm.
people who've been locked out of their accounts at Wells Fargo, um, where their accounts have just disappeared, money has just disappeared. Um, but yeah, it's scary to me to think that like a bank can bring a conservatorship against you because you decided not to, that you didn't want to use their financial advisor anymore and you want to pull your money out of the bank. And so a bank can file a conservatorship. And now she has no, and like millions of people get dementia every year and the bank doesn't file a conservatorship on them. I have
Mhm.
clients who have dementia whose families are taking care of them. So
Mhm.
like I'm just trying to understand outside of they're just stealing her money. Like what is going on that you decided that you know better than her family how to care for her, to the point that she's sneaking onto a phone and calling in to talk to Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club.
Right.
Um, yeah, that is just wild to me. I just wanted to kind of bring that back because I don't think I ever actually got that out. And
Mhm.
like I said, Wendy is Wendy. She is who she is. She doesn't care what any of us think about her. But again, if we just sit by idly and watch people be taken advantage of, then we can't be surprised when it's happening to us. And we're going to look around and there's not going to be anybody there to stick up for us because,
Literally.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and for a long time, women couldn't even have credit cards or their own bank account unless they were married.
that law changed, I want to say in 1973, the year before I was born, is
Yeah.
when women were finally allowed to have a bank account without their husband's permission.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
so again, like who put all these systems in place?
Whew, Lord, today drained me, okay?
Yeah.
There's so much, and like tomorrow, who knows what kind of shenanigans are going to happen. It's inauguration day tomorrow. So who knows?
Who
Um,
knows?
and it's your birthday, so I know you said you didn't really have any huge plans
Mm,
for your birthday. Has that changed?
no. I might try and find I want some seafood, so might try and find like some seafood. I I bought some weed today so I can be mentally prepared for tomorrow.
Yes.
I also have some wine in my and I'm not even a big drinker, but
Okay.
tomorrow I might
Tomorrow.
yeah.
Indulge. Yeah. Yes.
Although I have a guest and I want to say for like 3 years now she's given me a whole ass carrot cake and she
You
makes
love
it
carrot cake?
herself. I do like carrot cake.
My husband loves carrot cake too. Yeah.
'Cause I'm not really, like, a big sweet person unless, like, I'm on my period. I don't really, like, crave a lot of sweets, but, like, Carrot cake is probably one of those things that, like, I could always have a
Okay.
piece,
Okay. Okay.
but I won't always go out of my way to get it unless I'm at, like, a restaurant or something, you know?
Mhm.
But, yeah, she gave me, like, a whole ass carrot cake, and
Okay.
it's probably the best carrot cake I've ever had, so I'm
Okay.
excited. Yeah.
Okay. I love clients like that. Love
Yeah,
clients like
she's
that.
so cute. So thanks, Wesley. You're
Yeah.
amazing.
Shout out to Wesley. One of my clients texted me this morning. I did her hair yesterday. Um, she is just amazing in every way. She shows up on time. She pays my prices and doesn't complain. She recommends new people who are my ideal people. And she sent me a text this morning. What was this morning? And she just was like, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to me and like being so patient with me." And just like this whole long text about how much she appreciates me. And I'm just like, "Girl, I appreciate you. Thank you." Like, but it still feels so good to hear it. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I just wish I could clone her. Like those guests are the best.
I want to say, yeah, to bounce off that, I've had 3 guests within these past 2 days where one, I was the first one that she told that she was pregnant,
Mm,
and I just was like I'm one of those, like, because I'm definitely pro-choice, so
mhm,
I was kinda waiting to, like, sense her reaction because
mhm,
I know she wants kids, but she's, like, in school and, like,
mhm,
they wanted them later, and
mhm.
so I was just she was like, "I'm happy," and I was like, "Okay, I'm happy if you're
Okay, then
happy."
we're happy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, so I was like, "Okay, girl, woohoo, congratulations." And then, I saw, cause she, like, hadn't even told her, partner yet, cause he's out of the country for work. So, like, I was literally the first person she told.
That's so
Yeah. I
awesome.
know, I was
I
just
love
like,
that they
"Oh."
dress us like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not
Yeah.
really like a big like physical touch is not my number one love language, but after her appointment, I was like, "Can I give you a hug?" Like I just wanted to show her like thank
Yeah.
you. Like that's a really
Yeah.
big thing. And then I had another guest who I hadn't seen her since before the holidays, and she was like, "I'm engaged," and she got really emotional when telling her story because she was like, "It's just so nice to be loved for who I am," and like she was like, "I never really pictured myself getting married," and like she just got emotional, and I just felt I felt honored that she felt safe with me, that she could show that emotion.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
had a guy, actually, him and his wife are pregnant, and they hadn't had the best of luck in past years, so they were waiting to tell people. And so I was like, oh my God,
I love
thank
it.
you.
I love
So
it.
thank you to
Although,
my
to be quite
partner.
honest, I would be terrified to bring a baby into the world right now, but to each their own. To each their own.
Yeah. That's why I like to wait for like, are we happy
Yes.
about this?
Literally. Literally. Literally.
Because I'm on your
'Cause
side
I
no
got the
matter
back
what.
of the egg. Yes, exactly. Either way,
Yeah.
girl.
Either way,
And what's said in the chair
I'm on
stays in the
yours.
chair. So it's just
Yeah.
between me and you.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. All right, Impact, go ahead and read us out. We have hit our 2 hour mark.
Perfect. That's a wrap, but the movement marches on. Black Behind the Chair isn't just a show, it's a statement. We're Impad and
Peppermint Petty.
challenging you to be your most authentic, unfiltered self, both in the salon and beyond. Keep shaking the table and breaking the mold. Until next time, power to the curl.